We at the CPR Worldwide Media Network, your constitutional patriot radio station, would like to take a moment to reach out to a portion of our listening audience, to the NSA, the mainstream media, to liberals masquerading as conservatives who would like to see us off the air, and to those who are spinning their wheels trying to take us down. We have a special message just for you. At the CPR Worldwide Media Network, we're happy to be your 24/7, 365 obsession because, while you have your little panties in a wad, we're speaking truth to power, telling real conservatives what you don't want them to hear, the truth, and we're not gonna stop. Now then, back under your collective bridges with the rest of your fellow trolls, and oh yes, thanks for listening to CPR.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Has come for our voices to be heard, for our borders to be secured, and our immigration laws enforced. Welcome to the Ruthie Report. Let's start the show in the correct fashion. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome to the Ruthie Report. It is good to be back with you this evening. Our guest this evening will be world traveler Frosty Woolridge. And what we are going to discuss is the balkanization of the United States. Now, Frosty is very upfront and very candid when he discusses the balkanization of the United States and the future of the world. This will be a great show and you do not want to miss it. We will discuss what is happening, why, and what the future holds as Frosty believes it to be. Now, Frosty possesses a unique view of the world, cultures, and families, in that he has bicycled around the globe 100,000 miles on 6 continents and 9 times across the United States in the past 35 years. He has written hundreds of articles for 17 national and 2 international magazines. He has hundreds of guest editorials published in top national newspapers, including the Denver Post, Albany Herald, Las Vegas Tribune, and Daily Camera. He wrote a column, Crystal Desert Continent, for a major newspaper in Colorado while he was living in the Antarctica. He is also an author with numerous books, one of them being a handbook for touring bicyclists. Now, just so you do not, if you do not understand or know, the definition of balkanization is this. It is the political term originally used to describe the process of fragmentation or division of a region or state into smaller regions or states that are often hostile and or non-cooperative with each other. That is what we are going to discuss. It will be a great show, and Frosty will be joining us at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Now, we are going to take a quick 3-minute commercial break. When we return, we will jump into lead stories. Please stay tuned.
Things with the new guy.
All we do is go out to dinner.
That's it?
I mean, he picks up the tab every time, which is great.
Why? He's using you. He probably has a city thank you card and he gets 2 times the points at restaurants.
So he's just racking up points with me.
Some people.
Ugh.
No, I got it.
The City Thank You Preferred Card. Now earn 2 times the points on dining out and entertainment with no annual fee. To apply, go to city.com/thankyoucards.
The design of the Ford Escape is clearly intended to grab your eye. Oh, and your foot. Huh, ain't that a kick? The Ford Escape with the foot-activated liftgate. Go open up something interesting. Go further.
The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want? No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown.
This is only the beginning.
Black Hat, rated R.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here.
We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
who is the Olympic athlete?
His faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome back to the Ruthie Report. Thank you for tuning in. Let's jump into lead stories. I have so much news for you this evening. We're just going to kind of fly along this evening tonight and get as much of it to you as humanly possible. This first item is from the International Business Times, the IB Times, and what it says is that illegal immigration is most unpopular issue with Americans. Well, you and I knew that. Of course, we just needed somebody to come out with a poll and tell everybody else. It says the president's most unpopular stance, according to the poll, is on immigration. Obama announced executive actions late last year that would protect some 5 million illegal aliens from deportation. A majority of Americans, 56%, disapprove on how Obama is handling immigration, while 42% said that they approve. 1% said they don't lean one way or the other. The president fares only slightly better on health care. That's how close this is, where 55% of Americans say that they disapprove of his job and 43% say they approve. Again, the 1% apparently in both categories don't care either way. Moving on. Now, if you don't have a piece of paper and pencil for this program, you should always have one. There is a press release out by Congressman Jim Jordan, Jordan, and you can find him at jordan.house.gov. This is what we are discussing and what he's bringing forward in his press release. It says, Congressman Jim Jordan has joined Ohio Senator Rob Portman and the rest of the Ohio Republican congressional delegation in sending a letter to President Obama urging him to address potential voter fraud in Ohio due to his executive actions on immigration. The letter to Obama reads in part, quote, unquote, "Your deferred action programs threaten the integrity of Ohio's voter registration rolls as they potentially increase the number of non-citizens who can illegally register to vote and cast ballots without detection. Mr. President, our citizens' right to vote is among the most important guaranteed by the Constitution. Congress has the right and obligation to maintain the integrity and to ensure that only those who are afforded this right participate in our electoral process." Now, if you want to look it up, you can either go to Jim Jordan, or you can go to portman.senate.gov. Please look it up and get involved. Get involved. Get behind these guys. You know, why are illegal aliens, non-citizens being allowed to vote, to have a say in the country's affairs, who by their very first action in this nation was to spit on the country's laws? This is utter nonsense. Why are they being allowed to vote and change legislation or pick candidates that the American citizens should weigh in on only? This must stop. And yet, as I'm reading this to you, think, what real piece of legislation to ensure voter integrity do you see being pushed hard by anyone? It is terrible that our representatives have dropped the ball on so many issues because they are hiding under their desk with regards to illegal aliens. Even our voter integrity is diminished. It makes no sense. It's mind-boggling. Moving on, I do have a little bit of good news for you tonight. This is at conservativetribune.com, but what I'm sharing with you is from Powdered Wig Society. It's a little bit biased the way they write it, but it says, and are you ready for this? This is probably the only really good news I have for you for the whole evening. Amnesty supporters are preparing for a complete defeat of Obama's unconstitutional immigration policy in the U.S. District Court. This is dated February 10th. Prominent immigration advocates have all but conceded that federal judge Andrew Hanen, Hanen, a staunch critic of Obama's administration's immigration policies, will block the president's executive actions just weeks before the measures are slated to kick in. Texas is leading the charge against the looming immigration actions, bringing together 25 other states in a lawsuit arguing that the president's actions place a heavy burden on local governments. Now, if Judge Hanen decides against the Obama administration, he could block the implementation of the executive measures, which are scheduled. Now, they're scheduled to kick in next Wednesday, February 18th. If that were to happen, the Department of Justice would almost certainly appeal the decision, which then would go forth to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, I have heard nothing new on this. This is where it still stands as far as I know. So please watch for this ruling and stay tuned. I will, of course, keep you updated here at the Ruthie Report. Now, this next one, this is by Joe Widman, W-I-D-E-M-A-N of CAPS. She is the executive director there. And she wrote, Action Alert. Birth tourism to the United States soars. Tell Congress to abolish birthright citizenship. According to CNN Money, about 10,000 Chinese women gave birth in the United States in 2012, over twice the number of 4,200 in the year 2008. And the reason is clear. America is one of the few advanced nations in the world to grant citizenship to anyone who is born on its soil. A number of birth tourism agencies actually advertise. This is a business for them. They advertise extravagant packages at maternity hotels that include accommodations, meals, the doctors, everything. The agency provides information on how to apply for a visa and how to obtain a passport for the new U.S. citizen. Doesn't it just make you feel warm and snuggly all over? The purpose, as Joe goes on to say, of the 14th Amendment is clear. Quote, unquote. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. End quote. This was meant to ensure that former slaves and their descendants were U.S. citizens. No court has ever held that children born to tourists or illegal aliens are citizens. The Birthright Citizenship Act of 2015. Write that down, folks. Look it up. The Birthright Citizenship Act of 2015 would restore the 14th Amendment to its original intent and clarify that citizenship at birth is only granted if one of the parents is a U.S. citizen, lawfully admitted, permanent resident alien, or an alien on active duty in the military. Now, Representative Steve King, his bill is H.R. 140. Senator Vitter, V-I-T-T-E-R, his is S-45. Of course, Vitter is in the Senate and King is in the House. It would end the inducement for birth tourists and illegal aliens to enter the United States for the purpose of giving birth to a U.S. citizen. Please ask your representatives and senators to support the Birthright Citizenship Act of 2015. My thoughts. Why is something such as this common sense piece of legislation not soaring easily through Congress? Why? Why is U.S. citizenship not more important? Why is it that anyone, legally or illegally, can just travel to the United States, pop out a child, with full premeditation, travel arrangements and everything, give birth, and voila! We have a U.S. citizen. Shouldn't citizenship mean more? But then again, one only needs to look at the current lawless push with regards to illegal aliens to see why any common sense piece of legislation such as the birthright citizenship seems to be ignored in Washington, D.C. I don't get it. Why is it that those that we elected to represent the American citizenry do not take citizenship serious? And they allow the illegal entry fringe and those purposely arranging birth in the U.S. only to return after the birth to do so, to get away with this, to make it a freaking business to fly over here and have a U.S. child. Make some calls, folks. This is a no-brainer. We are one of the last countries on the planet that allow this to happen. You have to ask yourself why it is not sailing through Congress. What is the end game by these people? I just don't understand. Moving on. Okay, this is my title. My title is Racial profiling Luis Gutierrez. It's at Breitbart.com, and the real title is Luis Gutierrez to Texas Governor. We are coming for executive amnesty. It's dated February 10th. I have such disdain for this man. Really. I can't even share on the radio how much disdain I have for this man. The article says, on the most recent leg of his national executive amnesty tour, Representative Luis Gutierrez of Illinois suggested that Texas Governor Greg Abbott should start looking at his own family before opposing Obama's executive amnesty. Abbott's wife, who is of Hispanic descent, is the state's first Latina First Lady. He said, Gutierrez, quote unquote, let me just suggest to the governor of the state that we are coming. We are signing people up for executive action, millions of families, and that he should turn around looking at his own family and ask, what will he like the government to do for them, end quote. Have I mentioned to you the disdain I have for Luis Gutierrez? I think every single time, almost every single show. Luis Gutierrez, so what? There are millions of Latinos, Hispanics who do not support this lawlessness and amnesty, that want our laws enforced, so we don't end up like the third world country of Mexico. But may I suggest, Gutierrez, what you said is racial profiling. How many times have we been called racist and that we're profiling? And now, just because Abbott's wife happens to be of Hispanic descent, apparently they're all just supposed to be all in on this? That, sir, is racial profiling. Get a grip. And is the comment, we are coming, is that considered a threat? Really? How about this? Bring it on. Those of us who are already here are waiting. Ugh. Moving on. This is from CIS.org. For every new job, 2 new immigrants. That's the title, and you're probably going to want to look this up. Grab a piece of paper and pencil, because I'm going to give you where you can read this whole report. It says, since 2000, 9.3 million new jobs with 18 million new immigrants. This is out of Washington, D.C., dated February 11th. The Center for Immigration Studies reports that government data collected in December of 2014 show 18 million immigrants, both legal and illegal, living in the United States who arrived in January of 2000 or later. But only 9.3 million jobs were added over this time period. Yet Congress is actually considering proposals to increase legal immigration even further. Policymakers continue to falsely claim a labor shortage and to disregard the long-term absorption capability and capacity of the United States labor market, which has profound implications for the American worker. This is really a great read. It's got a lot of information in it. Please go to www.cis.org and look up for every new job, 2 new immigrants. It is astounding how they can say that they need more high-tech workers. It's mind-boggling. Moving on. This is from the New York Times, and it's dated today, the 12th. It's Unauthorized Immigrants. This is the title, and I'm making fun of them, yes. Unauthorized Immigrants. Access to driver's license is at risk. It's a biased title and reporting at best. It's by a Jack Healy and a Julie Turk whatever, dated February 11th. It says, out of Denver, his driver's license is an economic lifeline, said Felipe Castro, an unauthorized immigrant from Mexico who commutes 40 miles each morning to his construction job. He's illegal and he's working and driving. Oh my God. To his construction job in northern Colorado. Or it was until it expired last week. He needed to renew it under the state program that was created almost 2 years ago, one of several across the country granting licenses to non-citizens. But with Republicans now in control of the Senate, the legislature's Joint Budget Committee has largely stripped down the program of the money it needs to operate, angering many among Colorado's fast-growing Latino population and upending life for thousands of unauthorized immigrants like Mr. Castro. Let me say it back. They're illegal aliens that are driving to their jobs. They can't renew their license, and people are having a fit. That would be a better way of putting it. Now, there is pushback, as the article continues, not only in Colorado, but also in New Mexico, one of the first states to issue licenses to illegal immigrants, because conservative lawmakers, with the backing of Susana Martinez, have tried repeatedly to repeal the law enacted in 2003. The latest repeal attempt could go to the floor this week in the House of Representatives, which Republicans controlled for the first time in 60 years. The state-by-state battles over licenses have unfolded in the absence of broad federal legislation over how to handle the millions of people living illegally in the country. So I guess I should say this one's kind of good news too, but we haven't seen any end results yet, so I'm just holding off. And it is good news indeed, but we do need to start to combat the lawlessness in it's falling prey to this heart-bleeding article such as Rick's. The title, again, unauthorized immigrant. It's nonsense. We need to get going somewhere on this, or we're not going to get anywhere. Simply put, if you are in the country illegally, you should not have a driver's license. You should be deported, and you should return legally after a background check and a health screen, or don't return at all. It's very simple. You are breaking the law. Then you drive and you break the law. Then you take an American's job and you're breaking the law. Why do you people think that you should be allowed to do this? And really, when it comes down to it, what is the true benefit of giving illegal aliens licenses anyway? So that they have documentation to use for work permits and to vote? Many illegally in the country could care less. Driving and maiming and murdering Americans with or without a license. Let's stop the nonsense and the lawlessness. Revoke all illegal alien driver's licenses now. Again, folks, if we don't start somewhere on this, we are going to get absolutely nowhere. That's the bottom line. Okay, we are going, we have about 2 minutes here. Some of these we might have to carry over because they are important. Let's get to this one real quick first. Homeland Security Department has set up hotlines for illegal immigrants who believe their rights under Obama's amnesty policy have been violated. You can't make this up, and no, I am not kidding. This is at the Washington Times dated February 8th. In a memo, much like my grocery list on the refrigerator, in a memo announcing a customer complaint line, U.S. Customs and Border Protection asked illegal immigrants to please tell us about your experience. Oh my God, I can't hardly believe this. It says, if they believe that they were treated contrary to the new DHS enforcement priorities. Border agents said that the complaint lines amount to a slap in the face to those who have put their lives on the line to enforce the law. Sean Moran, Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council, the labor union that represent the agents, said, "Instead of supporting our agents, this administration has decided it is more important to find new ways to solicit complaints and invite ridicule against them." He continued, "We demand that this administration spend more time defending the men and women defending our nation and less time promoting the extreme agendas of pro-illegal immigration organizations." Now, before I weigh in, I would love to share with you Stand With Utah's opinion on this. They said, quote, unquote, "Obama's got a snitch line going. Homeland Security sets up Obama amnesty complaint hotlines for illegals. Memos say agencies want to know if federal officials violated their enforcement priorities. What the hell?" Ruthie says, my take, of course, before anybody jumps up and says it, I'm going to beat you to it. Of course, the government has numbers for you and I to report illegal aliens. But don't bother. You call, nothing happens anyway. Our voices go unheard. Apparently, our voices are just not as important as that of an illegal alien. What a slap in the face to the rule of law, to our brave men and women of Border Patrol and those who played by the rules and came here legally. Where is the hotline for our veterans that are living out on the streets, the homeless Americans living in their cars? Or better yet, where is the damn hotline for the Americans who have suffered at the hands of an illegal alien? What a slap in the face to every single American. All I can add to that is impeachment. As hard and as loud, as sincere as I can possibly say it. Impeachment. We're going to take our break. When we come back, we will have more on this and tonight's criminally and or insane segment that is just is disturbing. Please stay tuned. We will be right back.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
You know what happens when we take away the late fees and penalty rate? No one misses them. The City Simplicity Card is the only card that never has late fees, a penalty rate, or an annual fee. Ever. Go to city.com/simplicity to apply.
The design of the Ford Escape is clearly intended to grab your eye. Oh, and your foot. Huh, ain't that a kick? The Ford Escape with the foot-activated liftgate. Go open up something interesting. Go further.
The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want? No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown.
This is only the beginning.
Black Hat, rated R.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here.
We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
Who is the Olympic athlete?
his faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it. Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome back to the Ruthie Report. Thank you for tuning in. That signals tonight's criminally and or insane segment, and I have so much information tonight here too. We're just going to fly. We're going to get as much to you as we can. First, this is from Newsmax.com, and it's dated February 8th. The title is Homeland Security Chief Johnson states terrorist sleeper cells in U.S. now. Again, it's dated the 8th. It says, there are individuals living in the United States today who have contact with the Islamic State or other terrorist groups who have a desire to conduct an attack on U.S. soil, said Jay Johnson of Homeland Security Secretary on Sunday's CNN State of the Union. Johnson would not say how many such individuals the government is aware of. You know, and last week I did share with you that Jay Johnson actually implied a threat to Border Patrol that if amnesty wasn't included in the DHS funding bill, that their funds would be cut. I'm just saying. Meanwhile, while we have that, we have this from CBSNews.com. Dated February 10th. 20,000 foreign fighters flocked to Syria, Iraq to join terrorists. Out of Washington. Foreign fighters are streaming to Syria and Iraq in unprecedented numbers to join the Islamic State or Iraq and Syria or other extremist groups, including at least 3,400 from Western nations among 20,000 from around the world, U.S. intelligence officials say in an updated estimate of the top terrorism concerns. U.S. officials fear that some of the foreign fighters who come from 90 countries will return undetected to their homes in Europe or the United States to mount terrorist attacks. All right, folks, I put this out on Facebook, and I would love for everybody to hear this clearly. We have a serious national security threat in play. And what do we see out of Washington in the media? That there is an impasse to funding the Department of Homeland Security. Why? Because Obama, the Democrats, and a few Republicans want amnesty for illegal aliens. That is the bottom line. Call your representative, any representative, and demand that amnesty be removed immediately so that the Department of Homeland Security does not run out of money for funding, like it really would anyway, on February 27th. The message is simple, folks. Remove the amnesty for illegal aliens and fund the Department of Homeland Security now. Save the lawless amnesty debate for another day. What part of that would anybody not understand? Americans by large do not support this executive fiat in the first place. So let Obama, at a time like this, when the terrorist movement and growth is exploding, let him go ahead and veto the damn bill. And then he can explain it to the American people. What is wrong? Is there not anyone in Washington, D.C. not hiding under their desk that doesn't get this? There is bipartisan support to fund DHS, not amnesty. So remove the amnesty and get on with it and save it for another day. We elected you to do your job. I just don't understand the nonsense. Moving on, this is from the sunsentinel.com, dated the 7th. This is, if you haven't heard this, just going to blow your mind. Mexican border is now a major entry point for Cuban migrants, meaning Cuban illegal aliens. Although a homemade raft overloaded with desperate people, oh my God, you could hardly choke through this, desperate people is the most enduring image of the decades-long migration to the United States from Cuba. Oh, please. That is not the way most Cubans without visas now arrive. Most walk across the Mexican border. Much of the trafficking in people now is well organized by smuggling groups. It is how coyotes make a living, said George Danny, director of FIU's Cuban Research Institute. During the last 3 months, here you go, you want some stats? During the last 3 months of 2014, nearly 6,500 Cubans arrived at the U.S.-Mexico border, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. That figure is up from 4,328 from the same period the previous year, an increase of 50%. The number of Cubans without visas processed through the agency's Miami field has almost doubled as well over the same period, rising from 893 to 2,135. Many fly directly to Miami aboard flights from Spain, South America, the Bahamas, using passports from Spain and other third countries. Many, the article goes on, many of those Cubans who entered the U.S. through the Mexican border began their journey in Ecuador. Raymond Sanchez, leader of the anti-Castro group Democracy Movement, said that the Cuban government welcomes the flow of its citizens to South America. Oh my God! You can't make this stuff up. They welcome that flow through Mexico and into Florida because it relieves the social pressure on the island. Once they're in the U.S., those arrivals then refresh the source of income to Cuba by sending their money home to relatives on the island, Sanchez said. Oh my God. Regardless of any changes to the Cuban Adjustment Act or the lifting of the embargo, the Dualenti predicts that migration from Cuba will increase over the next decade. My thoughts. So wait. If we know this is happening, right? I just shared it with you. If we know this is happening and it's in print for criminy sakes, then why is nothing being done to stop it? That is such a common sense question. If entry is illegal and we know it and we want to secure that border and we know Cubans are coming here in droves and sending their money back to Cuba, why is nothing being done about it? Just, here's another good question for you. Who is it that is not coming across that southern border? Really, I'm not being sarcastic, I'm serious. How is this helping our economy? And last question for you. I thought Obama's current lawless amnesty was supposed to be for those that were here for 5 years or more. Oh, that's right. Jay has a memo, his grocery list refrigerator. Well, it's anybody that was here for the last year or something like that. We don't even know what it is. So what about these illegal aliens that just arrived? Why are they not being rounded up and sent back? Oh, that's right. It's the Cuban thing, the 1 foot on the soil, one wet, one dry kind of thing. What a joke. What a joke. No one is being stopped from entering at will. How many terrorists are entering as we speak? You know what? Impeach Obama and clean out Congress. Find those who care about this country's future safety and their citizens. Not cheap labor votes and how much money is passing hands. Moving on. It's just mind-boggling, folks. I'm sorry. I'm so irate about this stuff tonight, I can't hardly stand it. This is from Breitbart. If that doesn't toast your muffins, this should get to you. Federal judge awards an illegal alien nearly $500,000 after being shot by a Border Patrol agent. U.S. District Court Judge James Soto awarded an illegal alien nearly $500,000 after he was shot in the back by a Border Patrol agent. The now imprisoned Border Patrol agent claimed that the immigrant threatened him with a rock. The judge ruled against the government and in favor of the illegal alien. Most of the facts leading up to the shooting were the same in the suspect's statement as were in the agent's statement, according to court documents. The details of the actual shooting, however, differed strongly between the two people, and the judge determined that the agent's version to be less credible. He based his ruling, at least in part, on the agent's later arrest and convictions on charges for accepting a bribe to allow smugglers to pass through his inspection lane at a Border Patrol checkpoint. Folks, what does all this mean? It means that an illegal alien is $500,000 richer, and this is an example of the complete chaos we are going to continue to see escalate because our leaders refuse to enforce the law. Moving on. This is tonight's, each week I have the Insane Winner of the Week. This is tonight's Insane Winner. It is from Breitbart. It is dated February 9th. The title is, GOP Senator Says Illegals Complaining to Border Patrol Over Long Wait to Get Caught. Monday on Newsmax's TV America's Forum, while discussing his trip to the South Texas border, Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin said, "Not only are we not deporting illegal immigrants crossing the border, but now, because of Obama's executive amnesty, they are waiting to get caught." Johnson told a story of an illegal immigrant woman sitting at a campfire waiting to be picked up by U.S. Border Patrol agents in buses, and complaining that it took too long to get caught, and was driven to the process center. The woman, get this, the woman also demanded the agents bring the buses closer so they didn't have to walk too far to be apprehended. Are you kidding me? You almost have to laugh sometimes, folks, or you'd go insane. They spit on our rule of law, enter illegally, and then sit on their fat asses waiting for a ride to Club Med. And then they complain that they want the bus closer so they don't have to walk so far? What? Oh, America, please, wake up. Oh my God, I can't hardly believe it. All right, I have a series here of just really disturbing cases, and we're going to get to as many of them as we can. I'm not going to have time to get to the AG nominee eyed in a massive Obama cover-up. Please look this up. The TeaParty.org has it. And Loretta Lynch, there is a lot of stuff that you don't know what's going on with her. Please look up the title, AG nominee eyed in massive Obama cover-up. Look that one up for yourself. Of course, the Democrats are all upset because Ted Cruz said that we should hold the nomination until Obama removes amnesty, so now they're trying to beat up on the Republicans. And in all honesty, she's part of this problem, and they're investigating. It's common sense. Okay, this is from UniversalFreePress.com by Dave Gibson, dated the 11th. Please note, my guest next week is Dave Gibson, and we are going to discuss some of this stuff. This is out of Fayette, North Carolina. On Thursday, military police arrested Jose Luis Cruz, 39, as he was attempting to enter Fort Bragg Army Base, where he was working on a landscaping job. The illegal alien presented an identification card with the alias Stephen Kitchens Velasquez. An alert sentry believed that the document was forged and called Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. Cruz has actually been on the run for 18 years from the state of Texas, where he reportedly raped a child. Though he's in the country illegally and a wanted felon, Cruz somehow managed to avoid detection even after a DUI conviction in North Carolina. In fact, he was on probation at the time of his arrest. He's an illegal alien. WNCN reported, Texas lawmen have sought him for 18 years on felony charges of sexually assaulting a child. Texas officials have been looking for him since September of 1997, when he was charged with aggravated assault of a child under the age of 14. Cruz is currently being held at the Cumberland County Jail awaiting extradition back to Texas. He was working for a local landscaping company which contracted a job on the base. You know, who is this landscaping company? Who are they? I want to know. I want to press charges against them for hiring an illegal alien. And not just your average, normal, spit on the rule of law, illegal alien, but a felony, identity theft, DUI recipient, and sexual assault, child assaulter, illegal alien. Good God! You know, and the fact that he was arrested on a military base just gives you that warm, snuggly feeling, doesn't it? Makes you feel warm and safe all over. Moving on. Illegal alien committed statutory rape while using a stolen Social Security number. Dave Gibson, dated the 5th. This is out of St. George, Utah. On January 21st, Dilberto Martinez, 28, was arrested after he was determined he was using the identity of a U.S. citizen to work and obtain credit cards. The Spectrum reported that St. George Police Johnny Hepler said officers assigned to a fraudulent identity security task force determined that Martinez allegedly used somebody else's social security number to obtain fraudulent social security card and obtain a fake green card, taking both actions to land a job. In doing so, he allegedly harmed the credit of a California resident with that social security number. During the course of their investigation, detectives also determined that the illegal alien had an ongoing sexual relationship with a 16-year-old girl. Remember, he is 28. Martinez has been charged with 3 third-degree felony counts of sex with a minor, 2 third-degree felony counts of possession of forged device, and 1 second-degree felony count of identity fraud. He is currently being held in Purgatory Correctional Facility on an ICE detainer. Under questioning, he admitted to having sex with the teenager. Next, Universal Free Press, dated the 9th, from Dave Gibson. Title. Oh, this is just so disturbing. Illegal alien caught in the act of raping a 6-year-old girl in North Carolina. On Sunday, Pitt County Sheriff's deputies arrested Martin Vasquez, 47, after a probation officer reportedly walked in on the suspect raping a 6-year-old girl. WITN reported. Sheriff Neil Ix said the probation officer was at the home trying to locate Vasquez's son, who is also on probation. After knocking on the home's door, the officer went to the shed where he found Vasquez and the victim. Vasquez has been charged with rape of a child and indecent liberties with a child. He is currently being held at the Pitt County Detention Center. I just have nothing I want to add, really. Moving on. This is also from Dave Gibson, only this time it's written at the illegalialiencrimereport.com, dated the 8th. This is even just more nauseating. This is out of Hickory, North Carolina. On Friday, Mecklenburg County Superior Court Judge Hugh B. Lewis sentenced Cristofano Caressa Pera, 41, to between 25 and 35 years in prison after the illegal alien pleaded guilty to 3 counts of sexual offense with a child and 5 counts of indecent liberties with a child. This gets worse, folks. Pera was arrested July 11th of last year, 2014, after an investigation determined that he molested several children at an unlicensed daycare his wife operated out of their home. The Mexican national sexually assaulted both boys and girls between the ages of 3 and 8. The repeated molestations occurred between January and July. In all, at least 5 children were sexually assaulted at the daycare. If not for the bravery of one victim, a 6-year-old girl, who reported his abuse, this sexual predator would likely still be hurting children, Dave continued. At that same girl, who is now 7, testified at Friday's sentencing. She said, "He hurt me in ways that I will never forget. I hope I can be a voice for all those kids today. I want him to know that even though he hurt me, he didn't beat me. I want him to know that he doesn't scare me. I'm brave enough to stand up to people who do wrong. I pray these kids will move on and get the help they need." This is a 7-year-old who was molested by an illegal alien at her daycare. That enough should make you want to upchuck that a 7-year-old has to take this stance. And what happened to his wife, the illegal alien's wife with the unlicensed daycare? Tanya Lynn Carcillo, 32, has been charged with 1 count of felony operating an unlicensed daycare. You know, folks, how many more children will suffer before our laws are enforced? Why? Why do they have to suffer? These assaults were 100% preventable. Getting caught in a shed raping a 6-year-old because a probation officer showed up for your illegal alien son. Oh my God, it just every week it gets more nauseating, more sickening. I don't understand. There is one last one. Please do look up this title. It's at abcnews.com. Mexican newspaper editor was kidnapped, beaten, and then released and warned to stop reporting on the cartel violence. I reported that to you last week extensively, and Rusty Fleming and I discussed it. They picked this editor up, put him in a van, drove around town, beat him, threatened to kill him, and told him to knock it off, and then threw him out of the van in front of the newspaper. He fled that night. He now says the paper will not report on it anymore because he's not there to do it. All right, the last one real quick here before we go. This is from the Daily Caller, and it's dated the 3rd. And I know that's a little old, but, you know, there are a lot of people that are continuing to forward this to make sure that it stays relevant. The title is "Previously Convicted Illegal Immigrant Kills Houston Magician." What happened here, folks, is an illegal alien who had already been convicted on narcotics charges ended up killing 2 innocent bystanders in Houston. His name is Victor Manuel Reyes. Court documents show that he was given a sentence of 5 years for his previous drug charges that stemmed in 2010. It is unknown if he was actually deported and crossed back, or if he was just ignored by immigration authorities altogether. But the magician's name is Spencer Golvac. Golvac. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Look it up. This guy, this illegal alien, killed him after he killed a gentleman named Juan Garcia, and the cops were pursuing him because he was in the vicinity of that killing, and then he shot at officers and they killed him dead. The guy is an illegal alien with convictions and a sentence, and we're supposed to believe that border is more secure than ever. Our condolences to the family. We are going to take our second break. When we come back, it will be my honor to be joined by our guest, Rusty Woolridge. This is going to be an awesome interview, very candid. You do not want to miss it. Please stay tuned. We will be right back.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Why do cities shine so bright? It's the glow of opportunities, of ideas bouncing off one another, of countless people, every one of us, striving to succeed. Right now, in cities everywhere, ideas are being born. New thinking that will put us in awe of what people are capable of. That's what lights cities up, and helping people and their ideas to burn even brighter, so that communities, businesses, and you and I can grow. What if a bank made that its job? For more than 200 years, Citi's job has been to help empower people and business. Now, around the world, it's wherever people gather, wherever ideas come alive. It's wherever you are. The world's city.
The most amazing thing about the Ford Fusion isn't the way it looks. The most amazing thing is the way it sees. With blind spot technology, a lane keeping system, and a standard rear view camera, the Fusion is ready for whatever comes your way. Go prepared. Go further.
The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want? No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown.
This is only the beginning.
Black Hat, rated R.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here. We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
Who is the Olympic athlete?
his faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome back to the Ruthie Report. Thank you for tuning in. Now it is my honor to introduce to the listeners a friend and a very interesting man, Frosty Woolridge. Are you there with us, Frosty?
Certainly I am, Ruthie. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you this evening and all the listeners across America and Canada, because what we're talking about and what we're going to be addressing will actually shock many of you, educate all of you, and hopefully inspire you to take action. And the key here is action, and I am one of those individuals that really hope that each American citizen take the time, care enough about the future and their children to take action. So I'm excited to be with you.
Okay. Now, I did share out in the announcement and at the beginning of the program this evening that this will be a very upfront and candid discussion, primarily like the balkanization of the United States and really the whole world, as you and I know. But before we begin, Frosty, if it's all right with you, I would love to share. Frosty and I have known each other for some time, and back when my organization was having protests and rallies, and we're actually making an impact before, we were just completely ignored. We had a a rally that was about 30 miles away from the capital of Minnesota. We had the rally in a different location, and Frosty and a few of his fellow patriots were riding across the nation, going to capitals, showing up to bring home the issue of illegal immigration and their message. And Frosty and I can't remember, like 6, 7 other bikes actually ended up at the Capitol. But because we had, and I still do have, the moles and trolls that tune in and listen to what I'm doing and read my emails and my alerts, they showed up at the Capitol expecting all of us to be there, and it was Frosty and his crew. Well, I'll let Frosty fill in what he would like. However, after the fact, they actually brought in on Monday after the weekend, brought in attorneys calling me up screaming mad that, I was doing this and I was doing that, until I informed them that I was 30 miles away at the rally, and Frosty and his friends actually joined us there. So if you have a problem with this, and the end result is both our group and the opposing group that showed up against us both got a black mark from the state capitol. Frosty, still to this day I laugh about that. I'm 30 miles away giving my speech while you're riding at the Capitol and they're busting my chops. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, that was the 21st Century Paul Revere ride, and 6 bikes, that was 2 women and 4 men, rode their Harley-Davidsons across America, 20,300 miles in almost 3 months, and we covered 48 states and 48 capitals. We gave 96 television interviews, 90 newsprint interviews, and 40 radio station interviews. And the goal of the 21st Century Paul Revere ride was to alert the nation as to the consequences of mass immigration and endless illegal immigration into our country. And during that time, we had tremendous audiences across the country. In some places, though, we really had to face some pretty scurrilous attacks. And of course, always there is that red herring in there that you're a racist, you're a nativist, you're a xenophobe and so forth. And the reality is that we even had one legal immigrant with us on that journey, and she was Misha Hardy. And we talked about the fact that we're writing for U.S. Constitution, the rule of law, representative government, and the will of the people, and certainly the enforcement of America's immigration laws that was not being done at that time, and since that time no longer is being done. And in fact, those of lawless intention and reality are now being given a free pass by this particular man in the White House right now. So that was the first shot, I think, that really informed Americans and really let them understand what we're facing as a civilization. So the 21st Century Paul Revere Ride, you can look it up on the internet. You'll hear a lot of speeches that we all made. You'll see the points that we made. And again, it always gets down to the press, and especially the liberal press throws a lot of name-calling. But this is not about race, creed, or color. This is about a sovereign nation attempting to protect itself and its citizens attempting to protect ourselves from an invasion that is illegally crossing our borders, taking jobs away from American citizens, undermining the rule of law, and literally in violation of the U.S. Constitution. And it's also what we did was to inform the American people that the Congress and the President, even at that time, those individuals and that collective group did not and were not enforcing U.S. immigration laws, and therefore they were all in violation, and we brought that to the attention of the American people.
Yep, and that is, folks, why the attorneys came out of the woodwork, because this was a very big deal, and Frosty and company were making headlines and going to all of these capitals. And of course, again, I apologize for Minnesota, what can I say, but we did have a great laugh at where we were at when Frosty and crew showed up and told us what had happened, and it was quite interesting. So let's get on to tonight's conversation then. How do you want to approach this, Frosty? I can just let you take the lead if you want. I did send out in the show's announcement tonight several articles and parts that you had wrote, specifically like, say, Part 1, Endless Immigration into America, Chaotic Worldviews. I did send a lot of this out to the folks so that they knew and could, kind of research a little bit before tonight's program. Is there a specific spot that you would like to start at in this? And again, it's pretty much the focus is illegal immigration and out of control legal immigration and what it is going to do to this nation.
Indeed. First of all, I want to go back to what you were speaking about at the end of the last hour, and I would direct everyone to go to The Dark Side of Illegal Immigration. That's by Peter Wagner. He's here in Denver, Colorado, where I live. And you can go to www.usillegalialiens.com and their impacts. And he has an entire website, and it's called The Dark Side of Illegal Immigration. And you can go right down the list, the dark side of illegal immigration, as to terror, as to crime, as to sex crimes, as to property crimes, and Operation Predators. You can go to gangs, you can go to crime and summaries, you can go to traffic accidents, you can go to cultural differences, you can also go to the balkanization of America, you can also impacts of illegal immigration on education, the disease aspects, the job aspects, the abuse of the guest worker program, American infrastructure being completely overwhelmed by mass illegal and legal immigration, the economic costs. This thing goes down to about 27 different points, and they're all very sobering. And ladies and gentlemen, tonight on Ruthie's show, the Ruthie Report, I really want to bring to you the short view and the long view as to what we're facing. Just a little bit background on me. I'm a Michigan State University graduate. I also attended and did a postgraduate degree from Grand Valley State University in Allendale, Michigan, west of Grand Rapids. I then, of course, became a cardiac catheterization technician. I also then became a math and science teacher in Denver, Colorado. From there, I started bicycling around the world. I'm 68 years old right now, and I have traveled almost 100 countries across 6 continents, from the Arctic to Antarctica. And last summer, my wife and I traveled literally my 10th trip across America on a bicycle.
Oh, and I had just told him at the beginning of the show the 9th trip, so I'll have to change that, Frosty.
Okay, I can't even keep up with myself because I ride bicycles so much. And the key here with that background is that I've gotten to see the world up close and personal. I've traveled to China, and India, Bangladesh, Mexico, South America, Indochina. Everywhere on the globe I have traveled. I have seen the dark side of illegal immigration. I've seen what it's doing to Europe right now. I did one trip from Nordkapp, Norway to Athens, Greece. I got to see the dark side of legal and illegal immigration. And if you will, just call me a messenger, much like Galileo back in the 1600s. And if you remember, he was ostracized and he was put into prison by the Pope. He was under house arrest because the paradigm at that point in time was that the sun is rotates around the earth, and the earth is the center of the universe. And of course Galileo said, no, actually my studies show that the earth rotates around the sun along with all these other planets, and we're in the Milky Way galaxy and we're hurtling through space. And we all know what happened with that self-evident reality that we all understand right now. But at the time, the powers that be, the overwhelming power of the paradigm at that point, made Galileo wrong, also called him a heretic, and all of those things. And so if you can bring that into the 21st century, I am a Galileo on a bicycle. I have seen a great deal of the world. At the age of 68, I've seen more than most people. I've also gained tremendous wisdom about people and places and things and religions and ethnic groups and migration and all that goes with it. I've written 2 books, Immigration's Unarmed Invasion, Deadly Consequences, and the latest book is America on the Brink, the next added 100 million Americans. And so what I really want to bring into the discussion tonight is not only what we're facing as a civilization, but also what we're facing as an ethos and as a language and as a culture. If we continue on the path of adding 1.2 million legal immigrants every year, that's 100,000 pouring into our country every 30 days from over 140 different countries that have failed their citizens, and the citizens failed their countries. And these 100 million that are about to impact our country within the next 30 years, that's within 3 decades, by around 2040, 2045, we are going to be facing this massive onslaught. And that doesn't even count the illegals that are going to continue to come into this country, now estimated around 500 to 700,000 per year, according to Federation for American Immigration Reform, also from the Numbers USA with Roy Beck, and quite a few, and the U.S. Census Bureau really is getting to get into this thing. So what we're seeing is a massive onslaught of America, and I want everyone to understand that the line never ends, because the third world grows by 80 million net gain every year and 1 billion every 12 years. And of course, we're on a raging racehorse of a population demographic collision with numbers, to the point where the human race will add about 3 billion before 2050. And as you can imagine, they're all starving. They're all without water. Over 2 billion can't get a clean drink of glass of water daily as it is right now. And of course, 10 million children starve to death every year. 8 million adults. That's 18 million altogether. You can check those figures out. United Nations population stats, and you can see it on any of the programs like Feed the Children and so forth. So that's the broad view. I want you to understand, I got to see that up close and personal. I got to see what it's like to live in China. I got to see what it's like to live in India and places like Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a country that is so miserable. The human misery index, it peaks everything. There are 157 million people living in Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is less than the size of Iowa in landmass. Less than the size.
Say that again now. And just so you know, just really quick, I just wanted to insert here, Frosty. We have listeners at CPR from all over the world, not just the United States and Canada. We have many listeners. So can you repeat that last stat? Bangladesh is what?
Bangladesh is a country with 157 million people living in a landmass less than the size of Iowa.
Oh my God.
So in other words, I want you to understand this, and everyone listening around the world, and Canada, and all first world countries that are absorbing this massive population infusion, there is no end to the line. 80 million more people added, 80 million babies added every year that can't be fed, can't be watered, can't be housed, can't be worked, can't be educated, are all looking for a place to land. So as long as the first world continues to absorb them, the third world will continue to increase their population and continue to supply that line of legal and illegal immigrants desperate for a better life. So what we face here, and I'm hoping to have a world conference on the human race and the demographic realities that we're facing right now. But one of the things that I want every person to understand, that this thing is not going to go away. It is going to get worse, and then it's going to get worse after that, unless we change course. And I'm going to give you websites, 4 major websites where you can make a difference, where you can change the course of history by your single actions, empowered by working with millions of others who understand what you understand tonight from this program. And what I'm trying to do is create a consciousness shift. In other words, you get so educated tonight that you understand the consequences and the ramifications to our civilization, and then you then talk to others, and we create a critical mass shift. That means you start to take action, and I'm going to give you the websites to empower you to do that, and then we create a tipping point. Malcolm Gladwell, the great writer, Tipping Point, wrote how civilizations can go to a tipping point, either positive or negative. And of course, Jared Diamond wrote the book, Collapse, how civilizations either fail or succeed. And it's my intent to educate you enough in this segment so that you take action, so that we move this country toward a positive future. So first of all, let's talk about the consequences of illegal immigration. Illegal immigration now has somewhere around 20 million illegal aliens that are in this country, that are working in this country, that have somewhere between 8 and 10 million jobs that they've undermined and undercut American citizens. They've certainly taken jobs away from our minorities. African Americans and Hispanic Americans have all lost jobs, $15 and $18 jobs, to the cut rates of illegal aliens by really American citizens who are in violation of the immigration laws, in violation of the work laws, tenants who, landlords who keep housing these illegal aliens. All of this is a part of a big money system. And people that are part of it are Marriott hotels, certainly McDonald's hires illegal aliens, Chipotle's hires illegal aliens, fast food corporations, restaurants across the country, in your own town, there in Minneapolis, St. Paul. All of these individuals are doing that to make more money and take taxes away from and stop paying taxes and FICA and so forth. And so you have a lot of money, like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce should be called the Foreign Chamber of Commerce, because the U.S. Chamber of Commerce actually does everything it can to continue the flow of illegal aliens across our borders, to fill those work orders for all of Hormel Foods, Tyson Chicken, Swift and Armour, out here, the Montford in Colorado, all illegal aliens that are working these jobs, the forgeries of birth certificates, the forgeries of Social Security numbers. We have the second largest underground economy in the world because of this massive illegal immigration. And of course, none of our presidents will stop it, and haven't for the last 35 years. And none of our Congress will stand up for the American citizens. That's why we right now have 48 million Americans subsisting on food stamps. And 73% of African American children are born out of wedlock and being raised by a single mother, and the fathers are all somewhere else. And the African American family is just disintegrating as we speak. The dropout flunk-out rates in our high schools go from 74% in places like Detroit, Michigan, to 50 to 55% in Chicago. Here in Denver, Colorado, and I'm a former math and science teacher, our flunk-out rates average 50 to 55% and have been as high as 67%. Same thing in Los Angeles. The same thing goes on in Dallas and in Fort Worth, and certainly down in Houston. So you can see the consequences are huge. And essentially, we're also being forced to take on 1.2 million legal immigrants every year, and we're told that we have to be a multicultural society. But unfortunately, it's not working. It's not working whether it's in Ferguson or whether it's in North Carolina, where the 3 Muslim Americans were just shot and killed just in the last day or so. We now have honor killings in America from the Muslim immigrants in this country. We have female genital mutilations by the thousands of cases. We also have beheadings and beheadings. The latest beheading was in Moore, Oklahoma last summer, but there are another dozen that I can point out. And what really has happened to our country is that multiculturalism makes a nation no more than a holding pen. And let me make that statement again. This is happening to Canada. It's happening to Europe. It's happening to Australia. Multiculturalism makes a nation no more than a holding pen. And these multi-ethnic people that come into America have failed to integrate even among themselves. If you look at the kind of violence that's going on in the world today, you find that the Islamic lands are always at war with themselves, and they're at war with women, and the treatment of women is absolutely horrible beyond any kind of understanding, and yet we keep importing all of these failed cultures, failed economic systems, failed educational systems, and failed systems into this country as if it will all change.
Yeah,
and
it's the real war on women. In your part 1 of your series, the endless immigration into America, 150 different languages are taught in California schools. 150 in Denver. 172.
That's correct.
I can hardly fathom the fact that we have 172 different languages being taught in our schools.
That's correct. And I want every person listening around the globe tonight to understand this. As an educator, as a math and science teacher, also I've taught English, and of course I've taught creative writing. The one thing that I found in my world travels is the fact that what defines a third world country? Why is a third world country a failed country? Why does it fail? They keep saying they're developing countries, but in fact they're third world and they're failing countries because they can't feed, they can't educate, they can't house, they can't work, they can't sustain their citizens. And the one key word to the third world and all the failures of the third world is the word illiteracy. Illiteracy drives third world countries, and since they're adding 80 million net gain every year, new babies, there's no way that they can even begin to educate them. So as they exhaust them off to first world countries, then we too cannot educate our own children with 172 different languages. We can't educate our own children to our ethos and to our culture and to our language, and so you have tremendous disarray. So please understand that if the United States continues on with the 1965 Immigration Reform Act, which is still in play today, we will add 100 million legal immigrants to America within 30 years, within 3 decades. Now, what does 100 million mean? I want to make it really clear what that means. All total, the United States is on course to add the 100 million legal immigrants, that's their progeny, the immigrants, and then the chain migration that comes from after that. But we're also going to have a total population load, and go to the U.S. Census Bureau to check this out, of 138 million more people. Now, what does 138 million people mean? It means this: 138 million net gain. So in 2006, we had 300 million people in this country. We jumped 100 million within 40 years because of the Immigration Reform Act passed by Teddy Kennedy and Howard Metzenbaum in 1965. That 100 million hit us within 45 years, October of 2006. From 2006 to 2050, we are going to add 138 million. We're 22 million into that right now. That equates to doubling the population of our 35 most populated cities. How would you like to see New York jump from 8.3 million to 16.6 million? How about Chicago jumping from around 5 or 6 million to 12 million? How about Atlanta going from about 4 million to 8 million? How about Texas growing from 26 million to 38 million, or 38 million? How about Florida is now 18 million? Florida is expected, because of mass immigration, to jump to 36 million, a doubling within the next 35 years. And of course, California is the leader. They will jump from 38 million to well over 58 million, and that state of California right now is growing by 1,655 people every day of the year, expected to grow well over that 20 million within the next 30 years. And so you have to ask yourself, here in Denver, we're going to add another 5 million to Denver. You have to ask yourself, we have 7 states under water shortages right now. Those 7 states are Florida, Georgia, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, and California. So we're talking severe water shortages, already at the very edge of massive consequences to irrigation, massive consequences to watering our own human beings, our own American citizens, and certainly consequences to the aquifers. And then, of course, if you start looking at quality of life and standard of living, all of those are going to be consequential. But let's look at the sociological aspect of what we're facing as a civilization. This is already happening. You saw the 3 killings of the Muslims. You've seen the Fort Hood killings. You've seen the Fort Dix 6 killings. You've seen the Denver bus driver who was going to bomb the subways there in New York City. You've seen the beheadings and the beheadings in New Jersey a year ago. You saw the father running down his daughter and wife in Phoenix a year ago. You're seeing the South Carolina daughter being shot by the father for wearing jeans. Let me make this very clear. Multiculturalism does not work on any level. And here is a statement back in 1991 by the James Walsh, who was the former Associate General Counsel of the United States Immigration and Naturalization Service. He said, and I quote, "Immigrants devoted to their own cultures and religions are not influenced by the secular, politically correct facade that dominates academia, news media, entertainment, education, religious, and political thinking today," he said. "These immigrants claim the right not to assimilate, and the day is coming when the question will be, how can the United States regulate the defiantly unassimilated cultures, religions, and mores of foreign lands? Such immigrants say their traditions trump the U.S. legal system. Balkanization of the United States has begun." I want you to, unquote, I want you to really take a grasp of that quote, because it is a very sobering quote as to the future of the United States if we continue to add this 100 million third world immigrants to our country within the next 30 years. Because what it means is that we'll have 100, and we're getting all these people from about 140 countries around the world that can't sustain their citizens, so they flee. And these places are like Ethiopia, they're like Sudan, they're like Congo, they're like Somalia, they're like Indochina, they're like Laos, they're like China, they're like India, they're like Mexico, they're like Brazil, and all the places where there's just too many people that cannot be fed or watered or worked or housed or educated, and they are screaming into these first world countries and unfortunately creating the same consequences of that which they fled. And this consequence is going to be even greater, because in America today we're starting to lose the national ethos where everybody pulls in the same direction, black, white, and brown. Formerly, we were all Americans with a common heritage. Even though we've had our problems with racial problems and so forth, we all spoke English, and we all pulled in the same direction because we want to make it a better life for all of us as citizens of America. But we're about to import 100 million immigrants with 140 different worldviews, 140 different languages, 140 different cultures, and unfortunately coming from 140 failed countries. And if we think that they're going to come here and just start pulling in the same direction, thinking in the same way, you've got to really think harder about that, because as James Walsh said in his quote, we are balkanizing this country to such a point that we will no longer have a common country with a common language, with a common ethos, with a common culture. We will be a polyglot, and again, a multicultural holding pen. And when you get that many people that need a job, need water, need food, need housing, need something, and you put them all on welfare, at some point the entire system breaks down, and then the consequences raise their heads, and they get really ugly. And again, you're already seeing it happen. We're seeing complete segregation. Somalian immigrants here in Colorado, totally off by themselves. They're no more American than the man in the moon. We have a whole city of Fort Morgan, Colorado, is turning into absolutely a Somalian enclave.
Minneapolis too, with over 100,000 Somalis.
That's right. You have, and I even saw some of the cartoons or cell phone pictures where all of these Somali kids with nothing else to do are going around and pushing old people off their bicycles as they ride down the sidewalks, and then they're beating up on old people, or smacking people upside the head. That's not the American way of life. That's not the American way of culture. That's not the American way of treating old people. That's just plain assault and battery. But you have to understand, these Somalians came from an extraordinarily lawless civilization where killing is the norm, where anyone that has a different religion is killed on the spot, where beheadings and behandings of women is the norm, where you have honor killings as the norm. I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but in Muslim Islamic lands, somewhere between 5,000 and they think as high as 10,000 women are honor killed every year, just because they may have worn their jeans or said something wrong, or they wanted a divorce from their husband, and so forth. And so you're seeing the consequences of this massive immigration into our country starting to manifest. And as the numbers grow, you're seeing Muslims starting to have a new Muslim party. And you have to understand, and I'm doing a 14-part series on impregnating America with Muslims, and you can go to newswithviews.com. You'll see my part 14 tomorrow morning on newswithviews.com. I also write for freedomsphoenix.com, also for beforeitsnews.com. And I really point these realities out. And again, I'm just a messenger who has seen the world up close and personal, and I have really understood what we in the first world are facing if we continue mass immigration. Now let me, Ruthie, bring another point called cultural clashing. And Samuel Huntington wrote a book called Clashings of Cultures, Civilizations. And he wrote, and I'm going to quote here, "It is my hypothesis that the fundamental source of conflict in this new world will not be primarily economic. The great divisions among humankind and the dominating source of conflict will be cultural. Nation-states will remain the most powerful actors in the world affairs, but the principal conflicts of global politics will occur between nations and groups of different civilizations. The clash of civilizations will dominate global politics. The fault lines between civilizations will be the battle lines of the future," unquote. Let me clarify that. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, this is truly frightening. It just really is. And for those that have not, I've read your material. We know each other. I've heard you speak before. So I had an insight to what you were going to bring to the program tonight, and you have an open invitation to this program anytime you want, Frosty. But again, let me just share with the folks. Balkanization, the definition is the process of fragmentation or division of a region or state into smaller regions or states that are often hostile or non-cooperative with one another. So what you're seeing here is, and we're seeing it already, like what you're saying with the Somali population, from where they came, from what we as Americans have, our traditions, the way we live, are just in such contrast, and we just continue to add to this, and like you said, more people coming, more conflict, more division, more isolation. Frosty, what is really the course of action to derail this?
Okay, I want to also make one other quote here, then we'll go about what we can do to derail this.
Okay, because we only have about 20 minutes left, so I don't want to scrunch it all in.
Okay. This is by Teddy Roosevelt. Many of you have read this quote, and he said, and I quote, in 1902, "The one absolutely certain way of bringing this nation to ruin or preventing all possibility of its continuing to be a nation at all would be to permit it to become a tangle of squabbling nationalities and languages," unquote. That's Teddy Roosevelt way back in 1902. Now remember, this one part, or preventing all possibility of its continuing to be a nation at all. I want you to really make a point of that, because if we continue on this path, we will be a fragmented, fractured, polyglot society. Unfortunately, we have 7 million Muslims in this country today, and none of them, because they are Muslims, none of them will ever subscribe to the U.S. Constitution. And in fact, as their numbers grow, and we're seeing this in Canada, we're seeing it in the UK, we're seeing it in Germany, we're seeing it in Austria, we're seeing it in Italy, in Norway, in Sweden, in Holland, in Belgium. They simply begin to take over by simple birth rates, and then as their numbers grow, the Quran absolutely makes them defy any host country's laws, their culture, and they come to convert or kill all non-believers. That's the prime directive of Islam. So, if you're frustrated beyond all imagination, the key here is this. First of all, I'm going to ask every single person listening to tell 100 of your friends or 10 of your friends to join numbersusa.org. That's www.numbersusa.org with Roy Beck. And you will then become part of 2 million Americans, then make it 10 million Americans that are so empowered because we're all thinking the same thing. We want to reduce all immigration into this country from 1.2 million per year to less than 100,000 per year. Less than 100,000 per year. That would allow our citizens to marry somebody out of the country or whatever, but less than 100,000 per year, because we do not need any more immigrants coming into this country. That's just a fact. We have 48 million Americans who are living on food stamps, millions more on Section 8 housing. We can't get enough jobs for them, and we've got all these illegals that are taking those jobs, so we must reduce all immigration to less than 100,000 per year. So go to numbersusa.org. There are 2 movies on there, a 5-minute one that says Immigration, Gumballs, and Poverty. Watch that, send it to 10 or 15 or 100 of your friends to sober them as to what we face. Secondly, Immigration Off the Charts is a 10-minute video by Roy Beck that simply shows you the impact of another 100 million more immigrants onto our country just in quality of life and standard of living. Next, go to www.capsweb.org, capsweb.org, run by a fabulous Joanne Weidman. Joanne Weidman is brilliant. She's there in California. It's a national organization. You can, and with numbers and with caps, you will be able to send in with the push of a button, already written letter to your members of Congress, to your president, to the main people that are making the laws in Washington. And you can also become part of the phone crews and calling up your senators and your House reps. And the key here is millions of us doing that. We stopped the 2007 Immigration Reform Act. And by the way, the Senate 744 bill, which was the latest amnesty by Senator Bennett from Colorado and the Gang of Eight, they doubled U.S. immigration, legal immigration, from 1.2 million to 2 million per year. after I had gone down to both Udall's office and Bennett's office telling them the consequences. And as a matter of fact, I'm going down to now Cory Gardner from Colorado, U.S. Senator, and Bennett, and show them again the facts of what we face as we overload this country and how to change course.
Joe does have an alert out on voter illegal aliens voting, and she has a current alert out, and I did share that just this evening on the program. I do share a lot of CAPS information, so
that's
just
very
so you know.
good, because there's hundreds, probably several 100,000 illegal aliens voting in national elections right now. I've actually seen the work on that. www.thesocialcontract.com will get you that information. Thirdly, go to FAIR, FAIRUS.org, with Dan Stein in Washington, D.C. I'm a board member of FAIR, Federation for American Immigration Reform. Also, another firm, if you're a real environmental person, you want to go to carryingcapacity.org with David Durham. Empower him to empower you. Now, if we jump numbersusa.org and capsweb.org with Joanne Weidman and FAIR by 10 million people tonight alone, or 5 million, that means you will now empower yourself to create a national discussion. Now, I'm trying to get on 60 Minutes. I'm trying to get on Charlie Rose. I'm trying to get in front of Matt Lauer with my book, America on the Brink, the next added 100 million Americans. I'm trying to get in front of Megyn Kelly. I'm trying to get in front of Shepard Smith and Wolf Blitzer. I'm trying to get in front of Bill O'Reilly. If each and every one of you out there would write those individuals, and you can get their emails, or you can email me, and I'll send you a whole list of people that can talk on this consequence of adding 100 million immigrants to America. Ask yourselves, do you want your children to be facing the kind of consequences that are now being faced by the children in Bangladesh or in China or in India? Because if this population invasion lands on this country, we will not have any place to run. There will be no other place to go for a better life. We will be in the middle we will be in the belly of the beast, if you will, because once that extra 138 million more people manifest, guess what? It won't stop. Actually, the demographic figures show us growing within 80 years to well over 625 million if the current immigration laws continue. That's why we need to absolutely empower ourselves by joining those organizations I just gave to you, and that way bring the population issue up to the forefront of the American people, and bring up the fact that we cannot exist as a polyglot, multicultural society with everybody fighting and 140 different world views from all of these third world immigrants. And remember this, it's not against the immigrants. Not against the immigrants. They're doing the best they can. It's not about race, creed, or color. It's about our civilization sustaining itself so that we can sustain other countries by helping them with food or water or housing and viability. Remember, when you're on an airplane, the first thing they tell you if they drop the oxygen mask down is to put the oxygen mask on your children or you first. Which one?
You put it on you first so that you can take care of your children.
That's exactly right. So we need to be a sustainable and viable civilization here in the 21st century so that we can help all of those third world countries somehow pull themselves out of their consequences and actually have them solve problems by helping them solve problems in their own countries. Because mass immigration or illegal immigration will not solve anything for anybody.
Simply put, it would be our survival and theirs.
That's exactly correct.
When it comes down to, and just over our southern border is just, Frosty, I've been doing this for so long, but the crime that we are now seeing in Mexico is just so masturbated, then it just escalates all the time. There's stories now that I could share that you would swear I'm talking about ISIS or something, and it's just over our southern border. And for people not to understand that spread or overflow, I just, we talk about what's happening, the beheadings and this and that in third world countries, and everybody gets this impression. You see the child commercials and with the flies and the distended bellies, and you have most people really do not understand that this is just over our border, and we must address this now. We have to. I mean, there's just no other alternative.
Well, that's correct. And let me help everyone understand. I have seen all of this up close and personal on my bicycle at 12 miles an hour as I pedaled through all these countries. And again, once these countries suffer this massive population load, there is no solution. They simply is starvation, the human misery index, hopelessness, and powerlessness, and misery beyond most Americans' even imagination. Here's another quote that I think you will really appreciate, by Dr. Otis Graham. He wrote Unguarded Gates, and I know him personally. He said, and I quote, "Most Western elites continue urging the wealthy West not to stem the migrant tide that adds 80 million net gain annually to the planet, but to absorb our global brothers and sisters until their horrid ordeal has been endured and shared by all. 10 billion humans packed on an ecologically devastated planet," unquote. I hope every person listening tonight understands the ramifications of what we're talking about here. Ruthie has top speakers, top intellects, top patriots, but beyond all of the minds and all of the figures and all that, I want you to feel the certitude of my understanding of this thing. I'm 68 years old. I'm not pulling these things out of the air. I saw this kind of human ramification and consequence firsthand, and it is ugly, it is hopeless, it is misery on a level that most Americans cannot understand unless they traveled where I traveled. So what I'm trying to do is give you the tools, first of all, to understand our predicament, and then to take action with these 4 websites that I've given you, empower them to empower you, and then, of course, we have Tipping Point. Let's move our country, our civilization, toward a viable future by, and let you tell you this, American women have been averaging 2.03 children since 1970. So we as a country, Canada as a country, Europe as a country, as a continent, and Australia have all averaged 2 children per woman since 1970. So we've been responsible. We've obviously taken birth control and chosen to have a viable and sustainable civilization. The rest of the third world, of course, steamed on. And again, when I was in college at Michigan State, there were 3 billion people on the planet. Well, as of now, there are 7.3 billion on the planet, headed for 10 billion. So the other third world countries did not do what we did, and now they want us to take all of their consequences. Well, that can no longer go on. And so the key here is when you talk to your representatives, you talk to your House, you write letters to the editor, and you write Matt Lauer at Today's Show to have Frosty Woolridge or 35 of his top experts interviewed, or Charlie Rose, or certainly Shepard Smith, or right on down the line. Laura Ingraham. Well, I've asked Laura Ingraham to interview me on the same thing. I would tell her the same story as I've told you tonight, and yet she won't touch it. And so the key is your millions of letters, your tens of thousands of letters, your emails will get this thing to the forefront of the American people. Force it into the media, because if you don't, they will not touch it. They will not do anything about it. As you know, they haven't done anything about it in the last 30. Has any of the illegal immigration stopped? Yep. Not at all.
Not one bit. It's escalated. It's escalated.
Yeah. So has any of the legal immigration stopped? Nope. 100,000 people are pouring in to this country in the month of February, and then another 100,000 in March, and another 100,000, of course, in April, and right on down the line. So, Ruthie, the key here is that we have a choice now, and we have a chance. If we wait another 10 years, That's 35 million more immigrants into this country. I mean, we're adding a total of about 3.1 to 3.4 million per year. That'll be 30. Then you have chain migration. Then you have the birth rates. Birth rates are around 900,000 per year. The numbers all are there, and you'll see them on numbersusa.org, and you'll also see them at capsweb.org. This is our watch. I'm a passionate American citizen. I have 2 boys. I want them to have their kids have a life. I want to have everybody to have a life that I got to choose. I want everyone to have a viable job and an environment and a quality of life and a standard of living that Ruthie and I have enjoyed. And we want to bring this to our kids. If we continue on this path, our children will be in the middle of the biggest demographic nightmare the human race has ever seen here in the United States within the next 30 years.
You know, you mentioned that Ingram will not touch it. Ruthie will. And again, you have an open invitation to this program. You know, and the thought that what you're ending up here with, in Ruthie's way of putting it in a nutshell, you know, they do not need to all come to this country to be helped. I do not understand why everybody thinks they have to flood here. And of course, it is our resources, it's our country, it's our language, our culture that is taking the demise here. They do not need to come here. For all of those that want desperately to help some other foreign country, some other foreigner, fine, you can help them. There is nothing saying you cannot. What I'm saying is they do not all need to come here, to this country,
help them
to
in their
this
own
land.
countries.
Right.
Help them in their own countries. We do not and we cannot continue endless immigration to America. It is not viable. It is not sustainable. It is not advisable on any level, because it could only bring harm to all of us that are here. And then finally, it will collapse our civilization environmentally, ecologically. We're going to be quality of life, standard of living. It will simply collapse us when it comes to water, it comes to resources, and when it comes to energy, and when it comes to environment. We can't do it, because I've already seen what happened to China and India and Mexico. Go to Mexico. If you think Mexico is a nightmare, it's a nightmare for its people. It's a nightmare in its cities. It's a nightmare for water. It's called overshoot. They're overextended, and yet they're still going to add another 30 million people here in the next 35, 40 years. So we have taken responsibility for our birth rates in this country. We can help those people get to their own birth rate stabilization in their own countries, but we cannot allow mass immigration anymore. Again, you need to demand of the Congress and your reps and your senators to reduce all immigration, rescind the 1965 Immigration Reform Act, replace it with one that says no more than 100,000 or less per year, and virtually we do not need any more incompatible religions like Muslims. We simply are going to be overrun by them if we continue on the path we're on. You see it happening in, of course, Canada and in Europe and in Australia already. We do not want to be a country where beheadings are the norm, or women are treated like less than dogs, and that children, the girls, get married off in arranged marriages when they're 12 years old to 40-year-old men, and beheadings and female genital mutilation. That is not the American way of life. We don't need that kind of behavior, and yet we're going to get more and more of that if we allow Muslim immigration to continue into our country.
You know, just kind of a Ruthie, Ruthie, just a Ruthie kind of comment for the end here. The day hell's bells, I will not be wearing a burqa. Just bring it on. We'll see how this works out for anybody involved. Not going to be a good thing. Frosty, I thank you so much. Can you just give do you have a quick email or something that people can get a hold of you? I know my fellow hosts here at CPR would probably love to have you on the program, or those listening in that may have questions for you. Is there some place or some way that they can contact you? Yes,
my personal email, my website is www.howtolivaalifeofadventure.com. My personal email is Frosty, FROSTYW, @JUNO.com. I answer all of my emails. I will send you the graphs, the specific. I'll give you the specific population graphs. I'll send you my 3-part series on overpopulation in America and around the world. You will be very sobered by that. I can certainly send you, but go to newswithviews.com. You'll see my latest, Impregnating America with Muslims. It's a 14-part series thus far. You read that, and you will be sobered as to what our chances of surviving Islamic immigration into this country, because there aren't too many. We are in trouble. We're in big trouble already.
Thank you, Frosty, very much for being my guest this